So what our product does is you take a picture of an ingredient list, and our product will scan the ingredient list, and based off of the data that we've inputted, it will give you back a score based off of how much we recommend the ingredient, and it's on a scale from 0, or it's on a scale from 2 to -1. So -1 is like the worst, like totally do not recommend, and then 2 is like neutral or like irrelevant, like we don't know what it means. So that was pretty much the basis for our project.
Anyone wanted to add more stuff, add more points to what Foggy said? I think she did a good job, like in terms of overview, but exactly how this thing works or what's behind the scenes. Anyone want to add more stuff?
Why did we stop at candy? Is it because all candy is bad, right?
Not all the candies are bad, actually. Not all the candies are bad. But the reason why we are doing candy is, I think it's because it's relevant to us, right? Like I have a 3-year-old son, and he goes out to Halloween and get buckets of those things, right? And like we, I guess this group, sort of like just grew up, right? So I think it's just relevant. Also, just like we need to limit the scope of the project. We can't, for example, like try to, like score all the food. It's kind of impossible. Yeah.
I mean, it could be generalized, right? You could pick anything other than candy as well. It will still work. It should still work.
Yes. Yeah. As a matter of fact, as I was working on this project with the students, I actually come up with another way to do a very generalization of this concept. Yeah. Okay. So, Foggy, do you have access to the internet right now? You do, right? Like in your browser?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you looked through the website yet?
So my internet's been like glitchy for the past few days, so I haven't been able to upload photos and test it.
Yeah. So maybe I can do the honor, like walk. My screen's already there, so I can be your robot, right? So you tell me, where you want to go, and I just scroll or I click on buttons, right? And maybe it's Foggy, or actually, I think we should get more people involved. Rithika seems like very bored right now. Maybe Rithika can help us by, I don't know, like demoing how we can, I don't know, scan stuff. Okay, hold on. You finished your food? Yeah. Okay, good job. Okay, now go outside, please. Okay, go to your mom. Yeah. So that's my 3-year-old. So he, I made him a task every day, finish his food. So he finished his food today. Okay. Anyway, so Rithika, can you help us maybe, explain what's going on in this section here? The first section. What are we trying to achieve? What's the functionality?
Okay, so basically this is just trying to scan the ingredient label and come up with like a list of the ingredients in it at this point. And then,
shall we try it?
Yeah, sure.
Oops, I just clicked or something. Okay, hold on. All right. And Suryan, did you work on the OCR stuff?
Yeah, we used the Tesseract, which is basically this thing made by Google, which kind of like we upload our image and then it puts it into text.
Right. So so what you see here, I just uploaded this photo here on the left, which is basically like a food label, and then you can see all the text that we're getting back. Although this is not, for example, finding all the ingredients, but I think we need a human in the loop. Like basically, then people can just like, oh, yeah, so here are the ingredients. Let me copy and paste, put in there, and then we can actually score this thing. Okay. We can try another photo. Try another one. So the idea here is actually, to allow people to input these things for us. Okay, hold on. Wait, what happened? Okay, let's try one more time. I don't know what happened to that one. Okay, so this one, we also found all these different ingredients here. Yeah, okay, cool. All right, so now next section, explain the algorithms and look at all the candies. Can Steffi maybe explain all the algorithms? Is that okay, Steffi?
Yeah, sure. So basically what we first did was that we used this tool called Data Miner, which extracts different websites across the internet. And basically we extracted a bunch of websites about different ingredients. And the data specifically that we extracted were titles and descriptions about those, like pertaining to those websites.
Right, so
and,
let me show that.
Yeah.
So for example, corn syrup. So, okay, so explain to people what is the title, what is the description, and what's the prediction of our model did.
Okay, so basically the title, for example, would be 6 reasons why high fructose corn syrup is bad for you.
Right.
And then the description would be maybe the first line or two of the website, which is what Dr. Zhang highlighted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and based on those, we labeled each article as a whole, either -1, which means harmful, 0, which means neutral, 1, which means beneficial, or 2, which means irrelevant.
Right.
Yeah, the irrelevant part, yeah.
Do you remember like the Google Sheets that we used? What is it called again? I think there was a Google Sheet that we used, right? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me try to find if it's possible. Okay, but keep going. Like how many examples we labeled?
I think it was 1,500.
Yeah. Okay. Training data food. Okay. All right. So okay. So here is basically we search on Google, find on the site, and then there's a title, there's a description, right? And the label is the ones that we did, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Good. Okay. Now. Okay. So let me scroll this. Where did that web page go? Oh, here we go. Okay, now go. Yeah.
Yeah. So after labeling all of the articles, which was kind of a strenuous task, we fed those website. Oh wait. So like basically, we took those labels and we fed them into our model to train it. And after we trained our model, basically we could test our model by putting in a website title and a description. And basically, what our model would do is that it would return back basically it would return back the most probable label, whether it be harmful, neutral, beneficial, or irrelevant, based on the words that it detected. And
that's right.
Yeah, it wouldn't just be like, I think it's harmful, neutral, or some. It wouldn't be just one of those. It would be basically the highest probability. So it would give a probability for each of those labels, and then the greatest probability would be the one that the model most likely thought it sounded like.
Yeah, it's actually confidence, but these two concepts are very confusing. You know, one's probability, the other one is confidence. So, but you know, you probably will learn that a little bit later. But yeah, like as Steffi is saying, it's not just predicting like whether this is harmful or neutral, but it's actually predicting like 4 numbers, right? 4 confidences. One is basically harmful, neutral, healthy, and also irrelevant. Yeah. Okay, and then so the prediction are here. Okay, now who wants to explain how do we get to the ingredient score?
Dr. Chan, which algorithm you used?
Oh, we use this thing called BERT. So BERT is basically open source language model that represent essentially, the whole English language. And then, with BERT, we basically be able to understand sentences. And then we basically also had 2 layers of fully connected network behind it to do classification. Yeah, so that's the algorithm. Yeah.
So why don't you use the simple algorithm, machine learning, or you wanted to use neural network?
This is pretty simple. Yeah, this is not complicated. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So can maybe, I don't know, who want to explain how do we get to the ingredient score? Do anyone know? You remember?
If no one else wants to.
Huh?
I can if no one else wants to.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so basically, the reason that we used -1, 0, 1, or 2 like numbers was because that each website would get a score, right? And every ingredient had I don't know how many. Dr. Zhang, do you know how many articles each ingredient had?
We searched about 50, but sometimes the results are not coming back. So it's around like 10 to 50, somewhere there.
Okay. So I'm just going to use 50 as an example.
Sure.
So let's say that each ingredient had 50 different websites to use, right?
Yep.
It would each ingredient would have 50 different websites, and each of those websites would have a score based on what we labeled it as. So then how we got to the each ingredient score was that we calculated the average of all the website scores for that one ingredient.
Right. Although we do take out the irrelevant ones.
Right, yeah.
Right? So that's why the whole score was between -1 and 1. Right? And then the ingredient score here, we actually multiply by 10. So, so the score is actually between -10 all the way to 10 for each ingredient. So the corn syrup here, right, is -6.1, right? Okay. Now, how did we get to the candy score? Can someone tell me how do we get to the candy score? Suryam, do you know it?
Isn't it just like the same thing? We average it.
That's right.
Candy score.
That's right. We just averaged all the scores for all the different ingredients. Now, can someone tell me, is that a good way to do it, or it's there could be better ways? What do you think?
I thought it was a good way to do it because we read multiple articles and then we got our judgment from them. And most of the time, like we would give them like all the articles, they would be in like kind of the same range. There wouldn't be any like negative ones and ones. Like, it would mostly be in the same range, all the articles. So I think adding them all and then averaging, I think that was the way to go.
One thing though, this whole concept of labeling the different ingredients, I felt like sometimes that could be a bit biased. Some people think that milk is good for you versus some people might think that milk is bad for you. So it's kind of biased in that sense.
But that's the entire way of why we're choosing this method, right? Because if you were actually going to do research regarding this food, you will actually most likely use Google to do Google search, right? So instead of you reading, for example, 50 articles, we actually use this machine to read it for you and give you a quantitative measure, right? So one of the things to answer Sam, that is, okay, well, all the candies are bad, so we can take a look of all the candies that we studied, right? So can you guys see my screen? Yes?
Yep.
Okay. So so this is all the candies, right? From the worst to the best. So the worst one, ironically, is called Lifesavers. And you can see the score is still negative. Until you get to a little bit positive, your payday, positive. Pistachio, this is like still a little bit negative, but you can see why they're positive. I think because they have peanuts in them. You see peanuts,
Yeah.
right? So and you start seeing Milky Way somehow this way. Oh, well, now you start seeing positive ones, right? Big chunk of positive one, Old Faithful, positive ones. The really good ones, they're like Dove chocolate bar. I mean, they're just more expensive and they probably contain chocolate. That's why it's like healthy. The best one is like this one. I don't know why it's really good. Let me take a look. So Harbio Star Mix. So the bad ingredients, there is only one. There's a whole bunch of okay ingredients. And then there's a whole bunch of good ingredients. Oh, look at that. It's basically a lot of these fruits. Oh, that's the reason why it's so good. You just get a lot of fruits. Guess what, guys? What we actually have done is actually a general like food score, right? It's not just scoring, for example, candy, right? We can actually score any single food as long as Google search or people, have already written articles about it and Google has indexed it, which is pretty much all the food on this planet, right? So we actually have done something, I think in my mind, pretty remarkable, right? Although seriously, we need to finish this. There's a lot of work. So if you guys are bored, we got work for you. We got a job for you. Okay. So let's actually go ahead for our presentation, shall we? Right. So then we can go through it, as opposed to, we just talk about it. That would feel a little bit more organized. Okay. So what we did is basically every one of us, right? Every one of us, we had one slide that we need to go through, right? I don't know who's actually doing which slide now because there's no names on them. So if you have done this slide, please talk. Okay. My guess this one's Fagani. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So basically, like I mentioned before, I really like fitness and health and, just making sure that I really understand to take care of my body. So I also feel that I really want to share this like passion for health that I have. So when we were coming up with ideas, I wanted to create something around health. So one of the biggest factors of health is diet. And, processed foods is a huge part of our diet. And, they often have really, really long ingredient lists. And, we don't really know what that means. And people should have a general idea of what they're consuming. So I thought, why not create a product that can read the ingredient list and inform people of what they're eating? So this product is not meant to scare people, but rather inform consumers of what they're putting into their body. And based off of our recommendation, they can make the decision of whether or not they want to choose to consume that food. And this increases awareness and just helps people to understand what they're putting into their bodies.
Right.
And one like key thing that I learned throughout this entire process, AI Camp, is that learning is a process that takes time, patience, and practice. It's not something that happens instantly, and it's truly a process.
Right. Awesome. Okay. So who's next?
I did this one.
Okay. Go ahead, Justin.
So we wanted to inform people about the candies that they're eating, whether they're good or bad. So they insert a picture into the computer, and then the OCR turns it into text that it could read, and then it checks everything with the data miner thing.
Mm-hmm.
It gives them a score and it gives them an average. So then the user would know whether it's good or bad and to know more information about it and to help people understand what they're eating so they could be healthier.
Sure. Justin, like what's the one thing you learned in the camp? Like if there's a takeaway point.
Something I remembered you say was use data to make decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So then you want to research things before you just assume what is
Right.
true.
Right. Right. Certainly. So I'm gonna update this. So use data to make decisions. Okay, that's a very good one. That's actually a central point, right, for AI Camp. You know, like, did I force you guys to think about your future career and directions and etc.? And what did I say? Use data to make decisions, right? And there are so many aspects of data that we need to collect. Do you guys remember what kind of data points we need to collect?
How many jobs there are for that specific?
How many jobs there demand? Okay. What else?
Salary.
How much the main?
Salary. Yes, salary. Yeah. What else?
Something that you can do, like something that you kind of have a passion for.
Right. That's a framework, right? Like mastery, right? Autonomy and purpose, right? But another very important data, right? Like, you experience different roles in the AI camp. Why do we do that?
We all have different strengths, and we need to fit roles that play into those strengths.
You need to try various things to collect the experiences. Otherwise, you don't know day to day whether you're gonna like them or not. Maybe there's a high demand, maybe there's a lot of money, so you get a job with a lot of money, but still not happy because you don't like the day to day, right? Okay, so those are, pretty very important 3 data you can collect. The more data you can collect, not just these 3, right? I taught you, you have a document. I hope that's a living document, right? Over time, you're gonna visit it. Over time, you're gonna update it. All right. So who did this one?
That's me.
Okay. Oh, so you talked about scoring the ingredients. You talked about that already.
Yeah.
Okay. The maybe what we can do. I mean, this is good, right? You wrote it down, and then we actually used the website to talk about it. Maybe then you can talk about, Steffi, like, one thing you learned.
Yeah. So first I'll just go into a little bit, like I'll just summarize it really quickly.
Okay.
So we collected different websites using data miner. We labeled those websites for each ingredient, and then we took the average of those website scores that we labeled them, and those would pertain to each ingredient. And these ingredient scores basically would be available to use after the OCR, the optical character recognition, is implemented. And basically, we used OCR, Google's OCR, to detect text inside the images. Yeah, but I'll leave that to Sriram.
Okay. Yeah. So one thing you learned.
Yeah. I chose this quote by Jillian Michaels. It's not about perfect, it's about effort. Because something that Dr. Zhang emphasized a lot is that we might not be able to finish this entire project in the time that we have, since we only had 48 days, I think, total. And when you think about it, that's really less time to code an app, to like code a website, when you think about it. And I felt like he really emphasized the importance of putting in the effort, instead of like putting in effort to learn something instead of making a perfect app. Yeah.
Yep. Although those points, I have a slide that I can do better. One of the things I wrote is, I think the product is so complicated. It's something I really personally want to do, and I sort of like lead you guys into this valley, and then, oh my gosh, it's just like so much. Had we actually stayed in the standard route, we might actually be able to finish our project. But this one, I have to tell you, I spent a lot of time actually like building it up. Yeah. And probably not wise, for AI camp, but you know what? This is a great project. I'm going to put time on it. So whatever. Yeah. Okay. So I felt it's worthwhile. So it's not whatever. Okay. So Sriram.
Yeah, this is my slide.
Yeah.
So, basically, the OCR is optical character recognition. and it basically scans your text and it converts it into words. And we use the Tesseract OCR in our informant, which is made by Google. A lot of companies use it, and it's one of the fastest OCRs to this date.
Yeah.
So OCR programs are basically fed examples of text and font so many times, so that when someone like uses it, the OCR could recognize it. So
this kind of model where you give computer examples, right? You give computer examples, and then later on, computer can predict something. This is called what machine learning again? Anybody know? Is this supervised or unsupervised machine learning?
Supervised.
That's correct. Good job. Okay. All right. So Suran, you got one more point, right?
Yeah. So I thought we had to say something we learned about OCR. But it's like something about the camp. Okay. But
Yeah.
anyways, something I learned about OCR that I thought was really cool was that when it finishes scanning your text, it basically plots all the points together with coordinates.
Yep.
And it's almost like a map. I found that really cool.
Yeah. Well, okay. So that is a cool point, right? That's a very cool point about OCR. I think this slide is very, I think, informative. But one thing about the camp you learned, you think on the spot, like one thing?
Okay, one thing I learned about the camp is that, like, this is kind of, it's like some people might have already mentioned it, but like it's kind of like to never give up and like work harder. Because I remember like you gave me a task to like to put the 9 ingredients, and then I was working on that for like so long and I just couldn't find it. And like I also learned that it's okay to ask questions and it's okay to get help from other people. And then I eventually got it working, and I was like, the satisfactory of that was like so much, and I thought that was really, really good.
Yeah. Hey, one thing I want to say, thank you all, right, for sticking with this schedule. Like when you were in school, I knew a lot, like especially for Fagni and, Rithika, you girls are in, like the last couple of years, right, high school, and I can imagine there's just so much work that you have to do. And you put up like 6 hours per week. Oh my gosh, for 8 weeks, that's a lot of work, right? And you stick with it, you wouldn't do it. So I really appreciate, that, we stick together and actually finished it. Okay. All right. So next. So this is Rithika, I think.
Okay, so hi, I'm Ritika. So I worked on the front-end design. So at first we used MobiRise to get a basic design, but the problem with that was that we couldn't collaborate. So Fagani, Sriram, and I, we made basic designs for the webpage on MobiRise, but we ended up not using them because we couldn't find a way to combine them together.
Mm-hmm.
And we learned some basic HTML, but since this camp is based on Python, we didn't get to learn enough so that we could design an entire web page with what we learned. But we still made do with it, and we decided to use 8B to design the website. So we all logged on to Dr. Zhang's web account and did our stuff on that. And we had 2 templates at the end, index and results.
Yep.
And yeah, I know a lot of people, we already talked about this, but one thing that I learned was use data to make decisions. And I don't know, I feel like I can personally relate to this because as Dr. Zhang said, Fagni and I, we are at a later point in high school. And at this point, we're trying to decide what we want to do with our lives. And it can get stressful at times, but using data to make decisions, it makes it a little better.
Yeah. And tell you what, I'm going to tell you another secret. Don't tell anybody else, but this is probably going to stress you out as well. That is, you won't actually stop thinking about what you're going to do in your life throughout your life. Okay. In fact, statistics actually show, so use data to make decisions. Every 7 years, people change their career. Every 7 years. Every 7 years. Think about that, right? So you actually are constantly gathering information, constantly making decisions for the best for yourself or for your family, right? So Even though, you might seem like, oh my gosh, I'm about to go to college, or I'm gonna choose a major, it's kind of scary. But guess what? You're gonna do plenty of these decisions in your 20s. Okay, so always use data to make decisions, and the earlier you prepare, right, the better you will be prepared. Okay, all right, that's awesome. Okay, I think the final slide is my slide. So my job for this camp is really providing mentorship and leadership, and I guess also teaching. And sometimes I feel I'm also the biggest cheerleader for all of you, because I have to be, right? Like, if I don't cheer for you, if I don't, for example, root for your success, who will, right? And why am I doing this, right? So a couple things about the camp. So this is, I actually wrote down all these, good and bad and ugly and all these points probably like a month ago. But I had a lot of these, points where I think I can improve and AI camp can improve. But before I go into that, I think first of all, you guys are our first AI camp online, right? And congratulations, I actually think, by working with you guys, even though sometimes it's hard, remember there was one time, every one of you had a bug on your website, and I have to go through like one by one, and I was in Starbucks, and I was like stressed out, right? But what actually happened was, I think the online tools, they all work, right? You all got a little computer in pythonanywhere.com, right? You all had your sessions. I can see your screen, right? That really worked out well. And second thing is, I'm super proud with this product, right? As a matter of fact, I think this product is going to be something people is going to use, right? People are going to use. However, we're going to have to put a little bit more work into it. So you do let me know when you want to work on it. I'm going to work on this thing. Okay. All right. So now there come a list of things where I think AI camp can improve. All right. And that is something where you can also chip in, right? What are the things that you think we can improve? Okay. I don't want, for example, give a presentation where, oh yeah, everything's fancy, everything's cool, everything worked out. It's not, right? AI camp is also a work in progress, just like your learning is a work in progress. Okay. All right. First of all, I wish I could have asked you guys to do more exercises. Although given the fact that you're doing 6 hours per week, it was almost inhumane to do that, right? So which made we ramped the online camp format. Instead of doing 6 hours per week, now we're doing 1 hour per week with 1 hour exercise per week. Okay, and I hope that was much better. Okay, first thing is that. Second is, I wish I could have communicated to parents more frequently. Okay, for example, I talked to, surround your mom, right? And then that was it. I didn't talk to anybody else like later on, right? So I wish, I have essentially the way to communicate, to give feedback, right? To loop your parents in. I think, to just so that I fully understand your 24/7, right? So that you can have the best environment to learn. So I didn't do that, right? And third, this is, I think, both me and Fagni's fault, because her idea is too great. I think the project is a little bit too complicated, right? Like we went off the script, right? We were about to do object, detection, but then boom, we went to like, okay, text, classification, this language model, which I have, to be frank, I had to learn from the scratch, right? And so that was hard. And then I guess the final thing is more organization in general would be better, right? We had a timeline, but we threw that timeline away because we had this new project. And then later on, we actually didn't use, version control using Git. That was a disaster. So that I have to, like look at 5 different websites, each one of you had different bugs. So I think, more organization is going to be better. So these are the things where, I wish we could have done better. When you think about it, if we can do a little bit more relaxed timeline, we can do more exercises, your Python foundation would be stronger, right? If I gave you a more YouTube video to watch about supervised machine learning, you would understand it more, basically, firmer. If I communicated to parents better, then somehow, they could also see, oh yeah, why this is important, why this is not, for example, you're just sending kids to Michael and, this become a fancy daycare, right? That's not the case, right? And I don't want to do that. And the project, I don't regret that we do the project, to be honest. Like, this is a good project, okay? More organization, absolutely. That is my shortcoming, and I will, do better. Okay, so that's basically my, kind of reflection, about the camp. What I learned about this camp, there's so much things I learned, but I, sort of wrote down practice. I think that's the one where I wish, that we had more chances to do practice, and therefore all these concepts would be much firmer, right, in your mind. Okay, so that's it. But your feedback here, right, is really important to me. Okay, so, and you have to be candid and honest, right, and give me feedback. So I sincerely ask you, okay, and you don't have to, give me face or anything like that, right? I would say the cruel you are, okay, in honesty and talking about what's really happened, the better. Okay, so give me some feedback, please. Like, I need one feedback from every one of you. Yeah.
I think the exercise. Oh, sorry. You can go.
Go ahead.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. I think that the exercises were like really good, and like you said earlier, maybe we should have spent a little more time on some exercises. I fully agree with that. I mean,
Yeah.
like, yeah, the lectures were good, but like I feel like the exercises were like the fun part of the class.
Right. You want to get your hands dirty more, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Agree. Okay. So I'm gonna write it down. Okay. Fagni, you were about to say something?
Yeah, I mean, I think you did touch upon like the big aspects of practice and, extend the timeline so it's not 6 hours a week. So that's great. But I think one thing that could have been improved was the fact that if we had like a check-in in the beginning of class where we outlined what we need to learn for that day and have it written down somewhere, so we could always go back and reference those slides or a lecture. So if we need to go over a concept, or we just need to brush up on our theoretical
Right.
thing that we're discussing,
Right.
we could go back to something and review that so that moving on we don't have a weak base to work on.
That's right. Yeah. That's a very good process. Yeah. Okay. Or
Yeah, I'll go, I guess. So I think the whole camp was pretty good in general, but one thing that I remember happening is that I feel like we didn't put in a lot of effort to work on the project after class, I guess. I mean, I know I'm guilty of this too, but maybe if you could assign more like formal assignments, like this needs to be done by like this, like what Faguni said, like if we had kind of a more fixed schedule about which part should be done when, it would work out better. And if we delegated a little better too.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Justin and Steffi?
Sometimes I felt like when you were teaching us different things, in backend specifically or coding wise, not like the theoretical parts, it went a bit fast sometimes. Like you went a bit fast while explaining them. And I'd say in the future, maybe make sure that every single person understands what you're trying to explain to them. otherwise you can't really go further.
Right. I think this also like made me thinking. I mean, the reason why we went through the backend so fast was because we just want to deploy our model. It wasn't really the focus, but at the same time, I wish, you know, just like combined with the 3 feedback we just heard before, which is if there's a, you know, like after the, you know, like the you know, the official hour that we met, you know, I could send you maybe materials to look at, right? Or as Sriyan said, you know, if we can, for example, I do provide a channel for you guys to ask questions, but nobody did. But I think that's just because there wasn't an expectation. Yeah, yeah. No, these are very good feedbacks. Yeah, thank you. Okay, Justin.
I think something good about the camp was now I understand the concepts of AI, and I understand how some of it works. But then I also think in the back end was kind of confusing, and I didn't understand some of it.
Right. Yeah, I think I didn't try to even explain the backend in detail. I was like, this is how it works. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So the feedback is very consistent. You guys noticed? Right? So, you know, more organization is better, right? Practice more, right? Hands-on stuff around, right? And then in addition to that, don't just run through the backend as if, you know, like someone's chasing you. You need to actually explain that in more detail. Yeah. Okay. You know, your feedback here will basically be you know, improved upon or adopted for the next AI camp, right? So we have another one starting April 4th, and that's 1 hour per, you know, week kind of session with practice. But it's really couldn't be possible without your participation. And to be frank, like you know, like as I said time and time again, right? I would definitely not give myself like an A grade, you know, in this kind of class, in this, you know, like online class. Our summer camp in the last summer was I think I would have given myself an A, even A plus. But this one, I just felt like, wow, there's so much like I didn't know, you know, whether it's like the number of hours or, you know, this project is so complicated. But I do think we actually, you know, gained a lot of things, you know, doing this camp, right? And you know, I think the product that we made, I think it's going to be something where, you know, people time and time again is going to come back and look at it. It's like, wow, couldn't believe it. I actually today, you know, I just received a pull request. So basically, that's like a developer, you know, in the world, in Germany actually, and he was like, "This is awesome. I'm going to contribute to this." He actually wrote code, and he was like, "Use this library because it's faster." So, you know, this code is already making, you know, I would say news, you know, in the developer community. So, and really congratulations, right, for you to actually stuck with me and actually finish this, right? And you learn all these AI concepts, but, you know, hopefully you will take all these core lessons, whether it's like using data to make decision, right? Or you need to practice to learn about coding. It's not just through lectures, right? And different, for example, roles in how, you know, different roles in making a product, all these understandings. I hope that you can take them, right, and make a very good use of them, you know, in your future. Okay. All right. So, any other questions before we end this?
Sriram's mom, thank you so much for teaching these kids and, you know, making them understand AI concepts and go through all this. It's really nice of you to spend your time like this. You know, we wouldn't have gotten a better teacher than you. Sriram always enjoys your classes. Thank you so much for instilling this AI concepts into this young kids. Yeah. Because AI and neural networks and this deep learning and all these concepts are so important, and they don't teach this much in the school. So they don't teach all these things because, you know, even the teachers don't know many things. So I think it's so good. Thank you so much. We really, really appreciate your hard work. And, you know, this project is very interesting. Very, very interesting.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your support and trust. And I strive to improve. And, you know, you guys are always welcome to come back to our summer camp. You know, if you decide to drop by and have a lunch and maybe even doing some project with us, feel free. Okay. Although we don't know if we have a summer, right? Do we? So it might be like entirely everything's online. So I don't know. Yeah, but you know. Okay. Anyone else have anything you want to say? Any questions? All good? Okay.
Mr. Jain?
Yeah.
So, yeah, although it is a little bit, as you said, that it was complex, but you tried your best and you put in good amount of the confidence also, and you encourage the kids that, okay, the way it is to be done, right? So when we take this path, as you know, I'm also data scientist, because data is there, you don't know what we are dealing with, okay? But you handled in a very patiently and very efficient way. I appreciate that.
She's good. She's the leader in our class.
Pardon?
Fagni is our leader in our class.
Yes, you made her feel proud, and I really appreciate for your efforts and putting the confidence in Fagni.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
No problem. No problem.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't want to make this as a tour of you guys saying thank you and you're not obligated to do that. But thank you for participating. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So I'm gonna call it, but nice to have you, and let's keep in touch. You know always where to find me, and if you are bored, I do have project for you. Okay, this thing's not finished yet. You know, there are more stuff that we can do. Okay, cool. So I will see you then.
See you.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye. No problem.
Bye.
Bye bye.
We